The Reds and the Blues were at war. Each morning, the soldiers walked to the battlefield. Each evening, the survivors brought home the wounded. The war lasted for so long that no one can remember why it had begun. Victor II, King of the Reds, counted his soldiers and counted them again. 10 plus 20 is 30. Add another 50, and that makes 80. Only 80 soldiers? That's not enough to win the war. And he began to cry. But happily for him, Victor II, King of the Reds, had a son named Julius. When he saw his father begin to lose hope, Julius called, "Have courage, Papa." And the king felt his courage rise. Armand XII, who ruled the Blues, also had 80 soldiers and a son. But when Armand XII worried, his son had nothing to say. Armand XII's son was named Fabian, and he wasn't very interested in war. Actually, Fabian wasn't interested in much of anything. He spent his days in the park. One day, Prince Fabian received a letter from Prince Julius. It read, "Our fathers are nearly out of soldiers. If you are brave enough, prepare your horse and armor and meet me on the battlefield tomorrow morning. We will duel, and the winner of the duel will win the war for his kingdom. Sincerely, Julius. Fabian sighed. He didn't like horses very much. The princess met on the battlefield early the next morning. Julius arrived with a war horse. Fabian arrived with his sheep. "En garde!" cried Julius to start the duel. Bleated the sheep. Julius' frightened horse reared straight up. Julius fell to the ground. "Are you hurt?" asked Fabian. But Julius was more than hurt. The fall had killed him. The red soldiers screamed, "You cheated! The duel was a trick!" Fabian wanted to explain that it was an accident, but the soldiers had lances and shields, so he decided to run away. Armand XII, King of the Blues, was waiting for his son. "You should be ashamed," he scolded Fabian. "But I did nothing," Fabian protested. "Precisely. At least Prince Julius tried to win the war," growled his father. "Shame and double shame! I banish you from my kingdom!" Prince Fabian hid in the park. As morning turned to afternoon, the soldiers returned to the battlefield. And Fabian had an idea. He wrote 2 letters, one for Armand XII, King of the Blues, and the other for Victor II, King of the Reds. The 2 letters said exactly the same thing. "I am with Basil IV, King of the Yellows. He has given me a huge army. If you are brave enough, prepare your horses and your lances and shields. I will meet you on the battlefield tomorrow. Sincerely, Fabian." Armand XII read his letter that evening. "My good-for-nothing son with an army," he roared. "He'll have 8 soldiers at the most. I'll grind him into sausage. When Victor II read his letter, he shrugged his shoulders. He would crush Prince Fabian for having cheated in the duel with Prince Julius. He put the letter in his pocket and he went to bed. Each army approached the battlefield the next morning. When he saw the blue army marching toward him, the King of Red spluttered, "What are you doing here? Leave this battlefield." "We're here to face the yellow army," explained the King of the Blues. "I don't understand," complained the King of the Reds. The kings compared their letters and found they were identical. "How many soldiers do you suppose he'll have?" wondered Armand the 12th. "Perhaps 8, or 80, or 800, guessed Victor II. "The number doesn't matter. We Blues are extremely brave," said Armand the 12th. Victor II replied, "We Reds, of course, are fearless." At lunchtime, the Blues and the Reds were still waiting for the yellows. Waiting can make anyone nervous, even the brave and the fearless. "Sir," said Armand the 12th, "since we face 800 men, perhaps we should become allies." "I think we should," agreed Victor II. The allies waited all afternoon. At dinner time, they sent out for victuals. They decided to spend the night on the battlefield in case the Yellow Army tried to sneak up on them. On the second day, the Yellow Army still didn't arrive. The soldiers began to pitch tents and light campfires. On the third day, some of the soldiers' wives came to the battlefield. And on the fifth day, the Reds and the Blues began to trade back and forth and to entertain each other. And on the 10th day, the battlefield looked like a village. Fabian thought, "The Reds thought I cheated, and the Blues thought I was useless. I don't have an army, and never did. But I still entered the war." Fabian visited Basil IV, the king of the Yellows, to tell him the story. Basil laughed over Fabian's imaginary army, but he cried when he heard Prince Julius was dead. And he cried for the soldiers who had died in the war, even though he didn't know their names. Basil IV saw that Fabian was clever and brave. Because of the King of the Yellows had no son of his own, he asked Fabian to become the Prince of the Yellows. Many years later, when Fabian was king, he ruled wisely and long. And of course, under King Fabian, no one fought a single war. The end. Fussy Lomine, Victor II, King of the Reds. Diego Gomez, Armand XII, King of the Blues. Gene Stevens, Prince Julius. Sebastian Chiron, Prince Fabian. Huckleberry, Gaston and the Wars. Ophelia Up and Down, Bijou. Patrick Kellogg, Balthazar. Eric E.L., Cristobal. Griffin Cloudwalker, Dash and the Sheep. Robert Cronquist, Florent. Gladiola Gladrags, Paladin. Conrad Ventur, Harbin. Puppy Love and Roscoe, Rossignol. Vishnu Das, Dax. Larry Bob Roberts, Etienne. James Campbell, Duval. Haley Nystrom, Cosette, the camera's in the way. Sally Bonbon, Savarine. Darlinda, just Darlinda. Fancy. Vixen, Marvel. And Augusta Machado, Basil IV, King of the Yellows. The choreograph Teddy Toots Taraval, choreographer. And I'm your director and narrator, Rumi Missabu.